What I am tracking right now is not a single storm system, but two separate and very significant winter weather events that are going to impact the United States over the next 5 to 7 days, affecting millions of people from the Midwest all the way to the East Coast. And the way these systems are setting up has some characteristics that I have not seen combined in a single weather pattern in several years. The first storm is already taking shape and will bring heavy snow to the Great Lakes and the Northeast. The second storm, which is going to develop later this week, is going to take a more southern track, bring much broader impacts across a wider section of the country, and create a very unusual and concerning severe weather threat across the Ohio Valley, a region that does not typically see tornado risk in mid-February. On top of all of that, an Arctic air mass is going to follow both of these systems and drive temperatures across the southern United States to levels that are going to be 20 to 40 degrees below normal for this time of year. I want to walk through each of these components carefully, because the timing and the regional impacts are going to vary significantly depending on where you are. And understanding the sequence of events is going to be critical for anyone in the path of either of these storms. The driving force behind all of this activity is a pattern-level change that has been building over the past week. What we have been watching is an atmospheric river, a very concentrated plume of moisture, moving off the Pacific and into the western United States. That moisture is being lifted over the Rockies, and as it moves into the central and eastern portions of the country, it is interacting with cold air that has been funneling down from Canada. The clash between that Pacific moisture and the cold continental air is what is generating these storm systems, and the fact that we have two separate pulses of energy moving through the same corridor over a span of just 4 to 5 days is what makes this setup particularly impactful. The first pulse is going to produce the first winter storm. The second pulse, which is going to be stronger and better organized, is going to produce the second winter storm and the severe weather outbreak. Behind both of those systems, the door is going to be wide open for Arctic air to spill all the way down to the Gulf Coast by the weekend, and that is going to create its own set of hazards, particularly in areas that see ice or snow accumulation and then have no opportunity to melt before temperatures crater. The first winter storm is already beginning to take shape across the northern plains and the upper Midwest, and I want to start there because this system is going to be the opening act for what is coming later in the week. Snow is already developing this afternoon across portions of South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa, and that snow is going to intensify as we move into tonight and tomorrow morning. The heaviest snow from this first system is going to fall across a corridor that stretches from northern Iowa through Wisconsin, northern Michigan, and eventually into upstate New York and northern New England. Cities like Minneapolis, Green Bay, Milwaukee, Grand Rapids, and Syracuse are all going to see significant snowfall from this system. Snowfall rates during the peak of the storm tonight are going to reach 1 to 2 inches per hour in the heaviest bands, and in some locations, particularly across the upper peninsula of Michigan and into the higher elevations of the Adirondacks, lake effect enhancement is going to push totals even higher. I am expecting widespread accumulations of 8 to 14 inches across the core impact zone, with isolated locations potentially seeing 16 to 20 inches where lake effect banding sets up and remains stationary for several hours. Wind is also going to be a significant factor with this first storm. Gusts of 30 to 40 miles per hour are going to create blowing and drifting snow, and that is going to make travel extremely hazardous across much of the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region through tomorrow morning. Visibility is going to drop to near zero in the heaviest snow bands, and road conditions are going to deteriorate rapidly. I-90 from the Minnesota-Wisconsin border through upstate New York, I-94 across Wisconsin and Michigan, and I-80 across northern Pennsylvania are all going to see extended periods of very dangerous travel conditions. This is not a storm where you want to be on the roads unless it is absolutely necessary. The snow from this first system is going to taper off by tomorrow afternoon across the Midwest, but it is going to continue into tomorrow evening and overnight across portions of New York and New England as the storm moves offshore. While the first storm is still producing snow across the Great Lakes and the Northeast, the second system is going to be developing across the central and southern plains, and this is the storm that has my attention for a much wider range of impacts. The second storm is going to take a more southern track than the first, and that is going to bring it across areas that are not as accustomed to dealing with winter weather. More importantly, the second storm is going to be much better organized in terms of its dynamics, and that is going to allow it to tap into a much larger reservoir of Gulf moisture. The result is going to be a system that produces not only heavy snow across portions of the Central Plains and the Ohio Valley, but also a significant severe weather outbreak across the lower Mississippi Valley and the Ohio Valley. I am going to break this down into two parts, the winter weather component and the severe weather component, because they are happening simultaneously but in different parts of the same storm system. On the winter weather side, the second storm is going to begin producing snow across Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma late Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. That snow is going to spread east and north through the day on Thursday, eventually reaching southern Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky by Thursday afternoon and evening. The heaviest snow from this second system is going to fall across a corridor that runs from eastern Kansas through central Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and into central and southern Ohio. Cities like Kansas City, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Louisville, and Columbus are all going to be in line for significant snowfall from this system. I am expecting widespread totals of 6 to 12 inches across this corridor, with some locations potentially seeing higher amounts if convective banding develops within the snow shield. What makes this forecast particularly challenging is that the exact track of the low pressure center is still being refined, and a shift of just 50 to 75 miles in either direction is going to have a significant impact on who sees the heaviest snow. Right now, confidence is highest in the broad corridor I just described, but there is still room for adjustment as we get closer to the event. The snow from the second system is going to continue through Thursday night and into Friday morning across the Ohio Valley and the Mid-Atlantic before finally moving offshore by Friday afternoon. Areas along the I-70 and I-64 corridors are going to see the most significant travel impacts, and preparations should be underway in those regions now. On the severe weather side, this is where the forecast gets unusual for mid-February. The second storm is going to have a very pronounced warm sector on its southern and eastern flank, and that warm sector is going to be drawing in warm, moist, unstable air from the Gulf of Mexico. At the same time, strong wind shear is going to be present across the lower Mississippi Valley and the Ohio Valley, and that combination of instability and shear is going to create an environment that is favorable for severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. The timing of this severe weather threat is going to be Thursday afternoon through Thursday night, and the primary area of concern is going to be a corridor that stretches from eastern Arkansas and western Tennessee through Kentucky and into southern Ohio. This is not a common setup for February, and that is something I want to emphasize. Tornado outbreaks in the Ohio Valley during the month of February are rare, but not unheard of. And when they do occur, they tend to be associated with very dynamic storm systems like the one we are dealing with here. The atmospheric environment on Thursday is going to support supercell development, and that means the potential exists for strong tornadoes, large hail, and damaging straight-line winds. I am not issuing specific tornado probabilities yet because we are still several days out and there is uncertainty in the fine-scale details, but this is absolutely something that needs to be on the radar for anyone living in or near the Ohio Valley. The Storm Prediction Center is going to be monitoring this closely, and I expect we will see severe weather outlooks highlighting this risk beginning tomorrow or Wednesday. If you are in this region, now is the time to make sure you have a way to receive warnings, you know where your safe place is, and you have a plan in place in case severe weather does develop. Behind both of these storm systems, the pattern is going to shift dramatically as Arctic air begins to pour into the central and eastern United States. This is not a brief cold snap. This is a sustained period of well below normal temperatures that is going to last through the weekend and potentially into early next week. By Friday, temperatures across the northern plains and the upper Midwest are going to be falling into the single digits and teens, with wind chills dropping below zero in many locations. By Saturday, that cold air is going to push all the way south into Texas, the lower Mississippi Valley, and the southeast. Morning lows on Saturday across much of the south are going to be in the teens and 20s, with some areas potentially dropping into the single digits. Cities like Dallas, Memphis, Atlanta, and Birmingham are all going to see temperatures that are 30 to 40 degrees below normal for mid-February. What makes this particularly concerning is that any snow or ice that accumulates from the second storm is not going to have any opportunity to melt. Temperatures are going to remain below freezing across much of the Ohio Valley and the Mid-Atlantic through the entire weekend, and that means roads that are snow-covered or ice-covered on Friday are going to stay that way until at least early next week. Power outage risk is also elevated in areas where ice accumulation occurs, particularly if we see freezing rain mix in with the snow along the southern edge of the precipitation shield. Ice accumulations of even a tenth to a quarter of an inch can bring down tree limbs and power lines, and when you combine that with temperatures that are going to remain in the 20s for multiple days, you are looking at potentially extended outage durations in some areas. I want to consolidate the regional timing here so that this is clear. Today through tomorrow morning, the primary impact zone is the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, with heavy snow, wind, and blowing snow creating hazardous travel conditions. Tomorrow afternoon through Thursday, attention shifts to the Central Plains and the Ohio Valley as the second storm begins to develop. Thursday afternoon and Thursday night is when the severe weather risk is highest across the lower Mississippi Valley and the Ohio Valley, and that is also when the heaviest snow from the second system is going to be moving through Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Friday, the second storm moves into the mid-Atlantic and begins to pull away, but temperatures are going to be dropping rapidly behind it. Saturday and Sunday, Arctic air dominates across the entire eastern two-thirds of the country, with dangerous cold and wind chills affecting areas as far south as the Gulf Coast. The states that are going to see the most significant cumulative impacts from both storms include Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Missouri, Kansas, and potentially portions of Pennsylvania and New York. The states that are going to see the most significant severe weather risk include Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Southern Ohio. The states that are going to see the most significant cold air impacts include Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and the Carolinas. This is a multifaceted and evolving weather situation, and the next 5 days are going to require close attention to updated forecasts as both of these systems develop and move through. Preparation time is limited, particularly for the second storm, which is going to have the broader and more diverse set of impacts. Make sure you are monitoring local forecasts, have emergency supplies in place, and are prepared for the possibility of extended cold weather following the storms. I will continue to update this forecast as new data comes in and as confidence in the details increases. Thank you for following this coverage, and stay with us for continued updates.